Welcome back to the Foxfire Dispatch, small sparks, big change, a better self. I'm your host, Liz Purvis, and while I'm still working on editing the second episode that Rebecca Wilden and I recorded, I wanted to drop in here with a sort of special, thoughtful minisode as we enter the new year, 2026. This is not supposed to be predictive. It's not even really that mystical. It's just a little reflective. So every time we stand at the edge of a new year, especially one that feels politically loaded, there's this familiar mix of exhaustion and anticipation. You probably feel it. I know I have been feeling that feeling of bracing and wondering what kind of terrain we're about to step into. And when things feel uncertain like this, I can find it really useful not to forecast outcomes, but to ask better questions with meaning making tools. And one of the tools that I sometimes use for that kind of thinking is numerology. Alongside tarot and astrology, this is part of my storytelling toolbox. It's not like destiny or prophecy or anything like that, but symbolism and a way of naming the moment that we're standing in, of making meaning of all the symbols and the tools around us. And so if that made you tense up a little, stay with me here for a minute. 2026 is a 10-1-0 kind of year in numerology. Numerologically, it breaks down like this: 2 plus 0 plus 2 plus 6 equals 10, and 10 reduces down to 1 or 1 and 0, and that makes 2026 a 10-1-0 year. And in tarot, those numbers correspond to cards in the major arcana, 3 cards that feel really accurate, I think, for this political moment. The cards that this corresponds to are the Wheel, the number 10, the Magician, the number 1, and the Fool at 0, the first card of the major arcana in the tarot deck. These big moment kind of cards symbolize endings and beginnings, and momentum and choice, agency and a flow, the idea of systems already in motion, and decisions still available to us. And so first, I want to look at the Wheel of Fortune in the major arcana. The 10 is the wheel. I'm looking at a card from the Modern Witch Tarot deck that's very similar to the Rider-Waite, and I really love this take on those cards. If you've ever seen this card, it's like very what it sounds like. It's got this massive wheel in motion. It's got symbols of the zodiac rising on one side and falling on the other. No one is like fully in control in this card, but everybody is affected based on their kind of position in the wheel. And so to me, and in general, this card, it represents systems and history and political momentum, the kind of things that are already moving in motion long before any of us wake up in the morning. And honestly, that's how a lot of people experience politics, as something that happens to them, not something that they participate in. And the wheel doesn't tell us whether the change is going to be good or bad. It just tells us that things are turning. And I think that's where a lot of fear is living right now. We've seen wheels turn recently in ways that harm people. We have seen all kinds of backlash and, dare I say, lawlessness. We've seen powers consolidating in really troubling ways. And so the real political question that the wheel asks isn't just what's going to happen. It's when things turn, how do we deal with and process those turns? Now, this isn't just like a year that's ruled by a singular card. It's kind of ruled by these 3 cards. And so the next card is the Magician. The wheel does not stand alone. The Magician in the tarot is the 1. And I know that sounds a little like woo-woo. But this Magician card is not really about manifesting whatever you want, but more about agency. The idea that the magician is standing at this table and there are tools already laid out. There's a cup and a sword, a wand and a pentacle. And these represent emotion, intellect, will, and material reality. And in these tools, we see a message that says, you have the tools, you have the agency to, affect your material surroundings, to change your destiny, to change the world around you. And this magician card, it doesn't wait for perfect conditions. It encourages us to look at the relationships that we have and the skills we have, the access that we already have, the leverage that we already have. And this card is not about pretending that systems aren't real. It's about refusing to believe that you're powerless inside of those systems, inside of the wheel. These are the tools. This is the table. The work is figuring out how to use what's already on it. And then finally, there's the 0, which corresponds with the Fool. Again, in this Modern Witch Tarot deck, we've got this card. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see it. The Fool gets a bad rap, but I like to think of it as one of the bravest cards in the deck. The Fool is a figure that steps forward without guarantees. It's not a naive character, but it's a character who moves because they must, because they go, where the wind takes them with the flow. They aren't necessarily reckless, but they're willing to try to begin again after disappointment, to act without certainty. I would say the Fool is willing to have the audacity of hope. And that is not mysticism. That is the idea, I think, of just about every organizer that I know. And so when I think about 2026 as a 10-1-0 kind of year, this is what I see. The wheel reminds us that we are inside systems, big systems of history, power, backlash, momentum. The magician reminds us that we still have agency. We have the tools, we have strategy, we have relationships, we have choices we can make. And the Fool reminds us that none of that matters if we're too afraid to move without certainty. You don't control the terrain, but you do choose how you move across it. And that feels to me like a grounding way to approach a year like this. Not asking what will happen, but how do we want to show up? And maybe the questions that carry with you are these. What's already at your table? And what are you willing to risk using it well? Not perfectly, not heroically, just, honestly using the tools in your toolbox. We don't need certainty to move forward, but we do need each other and the courage to begin. Now, before we wrap this little minisode up, I want to share a poem that has been sitting with me as I have been thinking about all of this. This is a poem that's called In Praise of Mystery, a poem for Europa. It's by our most recent poet laureate, Ada Limón. In 2024, this poem was engraved on the NASA Europa Clipper spacecraft, and it was sent out into the solar system, which I love thinking about, this poem written on this giant hunk of metal spinning through the stars. And this is a poem from her most recent new and selected book, Startlement. In Praise of Mystery, a poem for Europa. Arching under the night sky, inky with black expansiveness, we point to the planets we know. We pin quick wishes on stars. From Earth, we read the sky as if it is an unerring book of the universe, expert and evident. Still, there are mysteries below our sky. The whale song, the songbird singing its call in the bough of a wind-shaken tree. We are creatures of constant awe, curious at beauty, at leaf and blossom, at grief and pleasure, sun and shadow. And it is not darkness that unites us, not the cold distance of space, but the offering of water, each drop of rain, each rivulet, each pulse, each vein. Oh, second moon, we too are made of water, of vast and beckoning seas. We too are made of wonders, of great and ordinary loves, of small invisible worlds, of a need to call out through the dark. What I really love about this poem is that it really pushes back against our obsession with certainty. We may want the sky to be legible. We may want the future to be readable. We may want politics to behave like a clean map instead of the wild moving system that it is. But Ada Limón reminds us that mystery isn't just out there, but here and relational. And when I think about 2026 as a 10-1-0 year, and then I think about this poem, they're actually saying something very similar. The wheel is reminding us that we're inside the systems bigger than ourselves. The magician reminds us that what we already have matters. The fool reminds us that we move anyway, without any guarantees. And this poem, it reminds us that mystery doesn't absolve us of responsibility, but invites us in. Not because we know how this turns out, how any of it turns out, but because staying quiet isn't an option. So if this episode did anything, I hope that it reminded you that politics isn't just about fear. It can be about imagination. It can be about responsibility. Should be, I think, maybe. And it's about choosing not to let cynicism prevail as the loudest voice in the room. 2026 is here. It's already being built with steps that have started today, yesterday, tomorrow. What we do right now really matters. If you are tired, skeptical, or unsure of where you fit into what comes next, please hear this. You don't have to do everything, but you do need to choose something. Small sparks still matter. They always have. We'll keep lighting them here. Thanks for listening to the Foxfire Dispatch. Take care of each other. Stay curious. And until next time, Happy New Year. Now go get in some good trouble. Music for the Foxfire Dispatch is produced by John Fitz. The Foxfire Dispatch is executive produced by me, Liz Purvis. You can find us at the Foxfire Dispatch on socials, across a variety of socials. We would be especially thrilled if you would subscribe to us on YouTube.